David Simcock is here with two runners, with I'm a Dreamer and Trade Storm, both going in the same race. And Trade Storm, of course, is favourite. Has been really impressive, eye-catching runs. Talk through the preparation since those excellent performances a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, he came out of both races very well, obviously. He's a very straightforward horse to train. He tends to put weight on quite quickly, so he does enough exercise. But he had two relatively easy races, and the fact that he never got a smack, and his preparation's gone very well. And delighted with his health.
And obviously, this is the acid test. And how do you think can cope with obviously going to a much more competitive contest?
Sure, this is another step up again. He's thrived since he's been here. He's probably got the one thing he really needs, which is fast ground. And listen, it's a very open race in my opinion, and competitive at the same time, without there being one standout horse. So,
in an ideal world, how would you like the race to be run for?
Listen, we're not going to change a lot. He came off a relatively slow pace last twice, and you'd like to think he'd be suited by a faster pace. But it's all in Jamie's hands. He knows the horse very well. As much as anything, by fate probably, or luck, or whatever you like, he's sort of found the key to him. So no, it'll be in Jamie's hands.
And Hayley Turner rides I'm a Dreamer, a horse that you have a huge soft spot for, and would love to see run a big race. Obviously won in America last year, so there's, but to win here, obviously you'd be delighted.
Yeah, I mean I bought her as a yearling, and owned her for the first 18 months of her career, so to speak. And she's been an absolute star. She's a model of consistency. Very rarely lets you down. She's been arguably unlucky in several races, but it fell right for her in Arlington last year. And she's a very talented filly who comes here in very good form.
And easy through the winter. I mean, we've had lots of, obviously we know how cold it's been back home in the UK, but obviously since here, thriving.
Yeah, travels very well. I mean, been to Canada and America 3 times last year. It really seems to suit her. I know sort of a lot of trainers say it, but it really does. And she was finished after the Breeders' Cup last year. She comes to hand very quickly, and she always runs well fresh. Her last 3 starts, her seasonal debuts have all been very good.
And obviously Hayley riding the horse, and obviously rode the horse to victory in America as well.
Yeah, I mean she's had several jockeys, but we wanted a bit of continuity, and the plan is to keep Hayley on her all year. She did rode a great race in Chicago and in Belmont, where it rained a lot in the morning. Arguably some people say she was slightly unlucky that day. I don't think she was at all. She carried a penalty and ran the winner of the Breeders' Cup fillies and mares to half a length, so to speak. So no complaints.
You've been a great supporter of racing out here over the years. What do you mean to have a winner on World Cup night?
It'd be very special. You say that to anybody. I just think Said Bin Saror, Mahmoud Al Zaruni, and Mike Cock would still find it very special. So for me, to break my duck on World Cup night would be fantastic. For the owners, the team at home, and myself, it would feel like a real achievement anyway.
Questions?
David, you say that there isn't a sort of maybe a standout star, and it could be quite level throughout. Who of the competition are you most wary of? Is it Ocean Park, Little Mike, Sarja, City Style?
I think you can put lines through an awful lot, and there's sort of question marks about a few. Little Mike dropping back in trip, but he'd be he'll have come on for that first run, and he's a lovely horse, and he's probably his form in the Breeders' Cup last year is as good as any. Sarja is very closely in line. If you look back at the form with I'm a Dreamer, she finished half a length behind her in the Middleton first time out last year, and arguably should have beaten her. Didn't get lucky in running. I think you go through them all. The New Zealand horse's form is very hard to weigh up. You respect it massively, but again, very hard to determine the form. And I think this is it. You look at the betting, which I did the other night, and you look down to Wigmore Hall, who's an extremely talented horse, thrives out here, loves the conditions, and he's 25 to 1. And I just, you know, that shows how, you know, how competitive it actually is.
Glad you mentioned that, Tom.
He deserves a mention. Always does. Woolly Wiggy.
Classic photo of him at yesterday's track work, standing fast asleep before
Absolutely.
he moved
Yeah.
out onto the track.
Yeah.
Any more? Oh, Tom?
You said I'm a Dreamer travelled out very well, travels very well. How about Tradestorm?
Yeah, granted, I mean, it's been a different preparation, and obviously you know what sort of form he's in. He came out in January. He was very heavy when he came out, and I made it very clear that he needed his first run. And we finished him in September last year, and he's not a. I'd rather, you know, probably the wrong thing to say, but I'd rather let him race fat and him tighten up by racing than try and get him too ready too early. You know, last year I was still learning about the horse, and he hit fast ground once last year in an awful summer for him. And you know, the conditions really do suit him out here.
David, how did the sail to Qatar work?
It was unfortunately slightly sad that the owner of Tradestorm, the main shareholder in Tradestorm, died the night he won the Seville Mile. And there was obviously a lot of inquiries, a lot of interest in the horse. And basically, you know, because there was so much interest, we had to put a deadline, and David Redfers of Pearl and Qatar Racing came up with what we considered a really, you know, good offer and great incentive, and you know, we're just delighted to have them on board and training for a, you know, a really good establishment.
Is that the first horse on Qatar?
It is.
But if should he win, it'd still be an emotional, given, you know, the owner. And
Oh, absolutely. You know, his last wish, their last owner's last wish, was he should win a group race. I mean, it's very special. You know, we planned, his D-Day was basically February the 14th, when the majority of the syndicate came out and, you know, saw him. And I can remember the first day they were here, they're from depths of the Forest of Dean on the Welsh-English border, and they went on an open-tops tour bus around Dubai, and they appeared that night, very rouge, to say the least. But they had the most wonderful time. They'll never ever come to Dubai again, probably. You know, I think most of them have never been abroad in their lives before, so it was it's a very special moment, really special moment. And they'll be cheering him on.